Hello, everyone. Welcome to Dojo Talks. Today we have another very special guest, Peter Doggers, who I personally know from chess.com from his writing, but recently he has released a book called The Chess Revolution that we are going to discuss today. So Peter, thanks for joining us. How you doing?
Good, good. Thanks for having me. Nice to be here.
Yeah, yeah. Well, maybe you could just start off by giving us some background on the book. Like, when did you start writing it? When did you get the idea? And of course, briefly, what it's all about.
Yeah, definitely. Well, yeah, I have been writing about chess for over 15 years online, of course, before. First for my old website Chess Vibes, and then since 2013 for chess.com. And I every now and then people would ask me like, so when will you do a book? You should write a book. And I always thought like, I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to write a book because you should be writing a book, right? There has to be something to tell, and you have to be able to sort of add to it to what I already was doing. And but okay, and then we are talking about the end of 2022, like November, October, the period where well, the whole chess world was in the middle of the Carlsen Niemann scandal,
Hmm.
which started in September, obviously, and not only the chess world, because this went so far beyond us. I mean, all the mainstream media were covering it for weeks on end. A wild time for chess, and even I was asked by Dutch media for interviews and calls and stuff. So I was on television a few times and on radio three times or something. And yeah, and then I suddenly got this email of a publisher, a young new publisher, and I didn't end up working with him, but he sort of came to me. He invited me for a coffee, and he said, "Yeah, I would really like to have a book about chess and about because I understand chess has been changing a lot, has changed a lot because of technology. Please tell me about it." And yeah, and that I thought that immediately like, yeah, this is actually a great topic for a book because we all know that chess has changed tremendously in the last few decades or so, maybe the last, yeah, depending on the perspective, you can talk about the last 2 decades or the last 4 decades or whatever you want to talk about. And yeah, and then I thought, yeah, this is great. This is actually a book, and I want to do it. And yeah, I met an agent in Amsterdam. He was also enthusiastic, and he helped me to, yeah, to come with like a pitch. When you want to approach publishers internationally, you have to sort of come with a package that includes like two or three already written chapters, and the whole content, and like another a letter of why you want to write the book, and why you are the one that should be writing this book. So the whole thing had to be collected, yeah, to present to publishers. That's exactly what I didn't know and what the agent helped me with. And so yeah, I started working on all this in I think early December 2022, and I actually started working on this Carlsen Niemann thing because I thought this has to be in the book, um, and then I took it a bit wider, started to collect more about cheating at chess, and then had more ideas, and yeah, in the end, I spent like I would say 14 months of mostly research and writing, and then like another half year or so further editing and improving and updating. That's more or less the process, the early process. Yeah.
Did you know that the dojo is so much more than a podcast? We've got tactics, a database, a training plan for everybody, a community of people trying to get better. So come check us out, chessdojo.club. Hit the link in the description.
Yeah. So I gotta say, I very much enjoyed it, and I got the audiobook version, so I listened to it. Jesse got physical version, and David got the ebook version. So we got all three
Okay.
formats.
Pretty-
Just
Did you like the
how it
voice?
happened. What's that?
Because you had the American audio. I haven't heard the American audio version yet, I think.
Oh yeah, I
Because
got it. I got it on Audible. So it
yeah,
was,
yeah, I should actually check it out because for the UK version of the book, because is being sold separately, there's a US publisher in New York, and then there's a UK publisher for like the rest of the world English.
Mhm.
And I remember that they sent me like three voice actors, you call them maybe, and I could actually choose which of the three I liked, and they went for that one for the. But I don't think I've heard the American one, but it's nice. I mean that it's available in all those different versions is that's great, of course.
Yeah. No, he was good. He was like very pleasant to listen to.
Okay.
Honestly, I was hoping it'd be your voice. I thought that would be really cool, but okay, that'd be
Yeah,
that'd be a ton of
yeah.
work.
Actually, they didn't ask me, but I don't know. My Dutch accent might be a little bit too thick for the U.S. market. I don't know.
Hmm.
Also, you're publishing it in a bunch of different countries and editions. It would be a lot of work for you to. I mean, did you do a Dutch language
No, no, I haven't done
audiobook?
any audio. No, no.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed reading it. I mean, it has like all these stories that start from like way past in chess history. Of course, a lot of stuff like I knew already, but it was just kind of a nice refresher. And I can actually definitely see this being a book that I'd recommend to someone that's getting into chess that wants to learn about chess history. Because I couldn't really think of another book that has like a collection of like all these stories and like iconic moments. And okay, yeah, there was a bunch of interesting stuff that I learned as well. And then, yeah, I thought it was very interesting how you just ramped it up to like kind of the modern era at the end. And it felt like, the book was like you just finished writing the book and immediately like released it. Like it feels very
Mm,
recent also.
Yeah.
Um,
I didn't
yeah,
realize from the
yeah.
title, The Chess Revolution, I didn't realize that it was going to have that first part that sort of sets the backdrop of chess and sort of the scope of chess history before. I thought it was mainly going to be, the
Yeah.
last 10, 20 years, kind of the internet age and basically what the second
Well,
and
I
third
thought the same.
parts are about.
I thought the same. That is the whole thing. I really had in my mind parts two and three all the time from the very start. Part two being chapters on the computer, and part three being parts on the internet. And in fact, it was my New York publisher who sort of convinced me to add a few more chapters on uh, the cultural importance of the game. She really wanted to. In one of our calls, she said, "I want this to be the definite book on chess for anyone for the next 10 years. For anyone who wants to have the reference and yeah, the book about the game and not about technical or games or players, but yeah, about everything else, sort of, so to speak." So it's funny that I actually ended up writing that first part the last.
Hmm.
Mhm.
I
Hmm.
sort of first did chapters five, six, actually first chapter seven on cheating in chess, then chapters five and six, I think, about the AI. Then I moved on to to internet, ICC, fix and all that, and then chess.com and the last chapter about the streaming, the streamers and the influencers and all that, and the pandemic. And then yeah, much later, I had already collected material for some other projects, but yeah, so I sort of started writing the starts at the end.
I think that that's helpful for readers because at the beginning of the book, I was like, well, where is this going? Is this going to be a cornucopia of chess kind of thing? And then it was
Yeah,
really only in the end, I was like, oh, this is the meat of the book. And the beginning, it makes total sense that it was the publisher who would want that kind of thing. But also,
right.
it's true that there used to be like, these big books of chess, the kind of cornucopia of chess history. And
Yeah.
since they don't exist, your publishers, or at least recent ones, it makes sense that your publisher would want that, And
I
I,
don't think
yeah,
anything like that has been done in at least 20, 30 years,
right,
Jesse. Like a
right.
sort
Yeah,
of
yeah,
like
yeah.
survey of chess culture,
Yeah,
famous characters from history, who is Nimzovich, who is Emmanuel Lasker, who is Paul Morphy.
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. And to be honest, there would have been enough, yeah, reason or maybe not space, but I didn't even go into all the famous players. I could have. I mean, I'm not even talking that much about people like Capablanca or Bert Winnick. You don't get
Mhm.
to read much about them because
Yeah.
in the end, yeah, I am. The thing is also for to get a book published like this by mainstream publishers. Because I ended up having 11 publishers in 8 different countries.
Wow.
And what is important is that is like there is a sort of a main theme behind the book. Initially, I had all these ideas for these different chapters, and my first proposal also to me it felt more like a connection, a collection of essays. But the link was not that strong between the chapters, and at some point it became clear I kind of have to focus on technology, and initially. So now it became like 1/3, like let's say popular culture, and 2/3 of the technological. But since our society in general has mostly changed because of technology, because of all the social media and the fact that the computer was invented and the fact that everyone got on the internet in the early 90s. Of course, it's a very natural way of also following the chess by focusing on that. And therefore, I think it still feels like sort of a general history of the game into the modern era.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, I'm because of choosing technology, I'm not going as deeply into other things like who won all the world championships,
Mm-hmm.
the FIDE politics. I could have done much more about the things with Imjinov and Dvorkovich, of course,
Mm-hmm.
about which I have written a lot on chess.com.
Yeah.
But I ended up not choosing that. Yeah.
Yeah. It makes sense. And also in terms of including the first part, if the main theme or the thing tying it together is this concept of the revolution that technology created, it's like imagine if someone wrote about the French Revolution, but they didn't tell you anything about what the monarchy was like beforehand,
Mm.
right? Like it would be kind of confusing, right? To understand a revolution, you have to have some idea what the status quo or history was um, before it. So it made
Yeah,
sense.
and also I think um, demonstrating what today's popularity looks like, uh, which means suddenly chess is on TikTok, for example, and on Twitch. That's sort of how we define chess popularity at the moment. And of course, the over 200 million members on chess.com and stuff like that. I think it creates a nice contrast with where I'm also trying to demonstrate where the popularity was in the Middle Ages and where popularity went in the 18th and 19th century, for example, that we kind of lost the female players at some point in the late 18th century with the coffee houses becoming the thing and society changing, industrial revolution, and the women having to stay at home.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm already talking a little bit about the popularity of the game throughout history and also why that was the case. And then, of course, in the end, we're going to see where it ended up thanks to technology.
Well,
So
Peter, one thing I wanted to bring up was you don't actually talk too much about what I would call chess journalism. And it's interesting because to me, you are one of the most important people in, like, let's say, the history of chess journalism. And it's interesting for me to think back on, like, when I was a kid, you would get like books and magazines, and they would give you the game scores, but you had no sense of the drama behind the games, like who these people were, what they were like, what the tournament atmosphere felt like. You had no idea. It was just the games themselves. And then in my mind, like it really starts shifting in the 90s when we start getting like tournament reports by Mig Greengard. I feel like that guy was key for chess journalism because it was the first time that it was fun. And it was like he has a picture of a bomb going off, a nuclear bomb going off in like one of to describe one of Kasparov's games and stuff. But even then, it was like these reports that were generally like on the Chess Base website, and for years, that was kind of like where chess journalism happened. And then your website happened a little later, right, with Chess Vibes. And then I feel like Mike Klein got in on the action. And one of the things that's interesting, I wanted to bring it up, is not only because I want to praise your own role in this, but because what's really fascinating to me about chess journalism is of all those people, like I think Mike Klein's the only one with like a degree in journalism, right?
Yeah, it's true
And
actually. Yeah.
he actually takes that kind of ethos very seriously. So he's like the one person, like he'll double check, if the story is told, he'll do some double check it and do all this stuff. But when I think about the way chess news happens, gets spread, it's actually rarely by Mike Klein, and it's more like Twitter posts or like whenever any kind of drama happens, Levy will do a recap or Naka will do a recap, In the sense, that's the journalism, right? The journal coming from the word for the French
Well, at least
for
it's
the
the
day.
story. At least it's the current day storytelling.
Yeah, exactly.
I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
I don't know if we can always call it journalism, but yeah.
Well, right. I think that's what it's interesting, right? It's not anybody, those guys wouldn't call themselves journalism, but that's how people are getting fed the information of what's happening in the chess world.
Yeah. Jesse, this is definitely something I wanted to ask Peter about. Peter, do you consider yourself a journalist when you're writing? You're a journalist?
At times, I've often thought about this, and yeah, there were periods where I was writing a lot of tournament reports. Norway chess starting, covering round one, covering round two,
Right.
focusing on the games and what the players are saying. And when in the older days, I would do video and I would actually interview myself, and I would mostly interviewing players is definitely journalism.
Mhm.
But then I would also follow like people on Twitter in the early days when Twitter was still a good place to be, and it was still called Twitter. And I would see like a Dutch correspondent being in early day Ukraine when the Dutch airplane MH17
Mm,
was shot down by the Russians, and he's walking over the field, and you can see the scattered plane and the belongings of the passengers who were dying. And then immediately I would think, okay, this is a journalist. I'm a chess reporter and nothing
right.
else, because then you contrast it to like the really the real world journalism, and then I always feel a little bit like chess is not on that level. However, um, I have done some pieces where I feel like I've entered the true journalism territory. Like let's put it that way. When I would do a bit more research, I remember an article I was quite proud of. I think the title was "Is FIDE Going Bankrupt?"
Mhm.
where I really dissected FIDE's financials with the help of like a friend who is like not an accountant, but he has a financial job and he knows a lot about organizations and working with um, the companies that need to control them, like I think FIDE always works with Ernst and Young, for example, and they always have to approve like the annual reports and stuff like that. And yeah, really writing about where the money was going. And in that period, FIDE was doing really badly financially. And I was sort of, yeah, telling this to the world, posting it on chess.com. And I think that was a very good journalistic piece. And other examples, for example, when the war started in Ukraine, I quite a few weeks after I reached out to a lot of Ukrainian players, mostly grandmasters, and simply asked them, "How is this affecting your chess life and your family?" And I collected different stories from different areas also of the country. And then I think a year later, not realizing that this war would rage on even until today, but a year later, I like revisited those families and I sort of gave them another opportunity to update the chess world um, on how things were going after a year, And it was just this terrible effect of the war on these people, and yeah, letting the chess world also sort of feel maybe if they wanted to be supporting the Ukrainian players in a way, they could also read about it and know more about how that was going. So I think those kind of pieces, when I did that, I sort of felt like a true journalist. But yeah, as I said, when you just cover a chess tournament and you do sort of the more routine stuff, where you're analyzing some games and you're talking about who's leading and who made a blunder and who didn't. To me, that always felt a little bit less like true journalism. But yeah, maybe I'm a perfectionist also, and this is maybe I shouldn't be thinking about it like this, but it's how I am.
I
Go
I
ahead.
read your bibliography on the book, and so I saw that you definitely did a lot of research there as well.
Yeah, for the book, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I'll let you go, Jesse.
Well, one thing I'm sure other
Wait, I had
people.
something. Sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, just speaking of like the routine tournament reports, I just want to say like I always thought, Peter, like you did like great work for chess.com. And when I started writing those reports for chess.com,
Yeah,
I
I'm
basically
not
just
saying I didn't put enough energy in it or something, but I don't know if there's this distinction even exists, but I would more call it like reporting.
yeah.
Um, but okay, maybe the distinction is not that important.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's fine. Like, I think it was reporting because it wasn't like something dramatic and controversial happened. I think you were talking about like reporting on stuff that's like uncomfortable or that people like wouldn't want you to mention, whereas like tournament reports are generally like yeah, that's fine. Like you're not writing anything that like upsets anyone. But no, like I totally just learned how to do it myself from like reading your work and Mike Klein's work. And I don't know, I thought you just like completely I don't know, you just like mastered the format. And so it's just like totally, I don't know,
Thank you,
like
thank you.
it was very, very helpful. Yeah, for me personally. I just thought it was very
Agreed.
good. I thought it was yeah, always great at that.
But
Um
yeah, I must say, it would have been very good to have Mike especially in the early days that I was at chess.com. I would say 2013 to 2016-ish. It was very good to have Mike alongside me, and he definitely brought that extra bit of professionalism from his background, from his education to the company. And I think also those were the years, maybe a few more years, that chess.com was really sort of pushing to be the number one, also journalistically, to bring the news unbiased, and because there was no other source for that, right? I must say that, I mean, things have changed a little bit. Chess.com the company has grown a lot, and therefore, like, relationships with other entities, like with FIDE or with Freestyle or with everything that is happening in the chess world. Um, I don't think we can still follow the exact same strategy that we used to have, because yeah, in the end, we are first and foremost a chess company, a chess platform that makes money out of offering chess products, so to speak. And we had those discussions, and sometimes, yeah, this pure journalism, for example, being quite fearful against the World Chess Federation, quite strong in words also. Yeah, if you, at the same time, you're sort of negotiating with them about broadcast rights for World Championships, for example, then
Hmm.
at some point there might be a conflict of interest here and there, and so I think we're still doing a great job, and we have even more writers, and we have much more content than let's say a decade ago. So in that sense, we're doing really well. But yeah, in the end, those pieces, those really critical pieces that I used to do also for Chess Vibes, even more critical when Illuminov was still around. I don't think we can still post those kind of pieces on our site, but it's also quite understandable.
You could, but somebody would choose not to.
Yes.
Unpublished. Yeah.
No, it's very simple. The company's strategy has changed a little bit in recent years on this area.
Yeah.
But I guess one of the things to say about that is that's really always been the case throughout chess history. Like before, I feel like early 2000s, late 90s, the chess base website, and there's a conflict of interest there too. So all of these people had
Exactly.
conflicts of interest.
Yes.
There was never like some kind of independent news organization, right, looking
Well,
at the chess world.
Yeah, like chess base, Frederick Friedel, he was close friends, or I don't know how close they were friends, but I mean, he had a close relationship with Garry Kasparov, right?
Right. Yeah.
And Kasparov had like first access
Well,
to chess base and things like
Mm.
that.
yeah,
And so if they're posting articles about a split between FIDE and the PCA or what
Right.
Kasparov's doing or stuff like that, they're all like somewhat entangled with each other, but that's our source of news.
Right.
yeah, no, that's definitely the case. And um, I think with chess vibes, those 6 years with chess vibes, I came pretty close to being fairly independent. Although from the early start, I did have New in Chess as a sponsor. They were simply offering books on the side of the website, and I had some help from ICC actually for a few tournaments. So yeah, like you say, it's almost if you don't have like a some kind of funding already, it's a bit hard to yeah to remain absolutely independent, I guess. But yeah, I think I was pretty close to that with Chat Vibes.
Quick timeout here. Did you know that the dojo is an incredible site with tactics, a database, a community of people trying to improve, a training program? All of this is going on at our site. So go check it out. ChessDojo.club. Hit the link in the description. So one thing, Peter, I wanted to ask you, I think other people have the same question is, um, you mentioned Twitter a couple minutes ago, and one thing that's really curious is I feel like chess Twitter has markedly gone down in terms of the activity and just personally what I can get out of it. Like I used to go on there and I feel like it was a fun place where people were saying funny things, but also you were learning things about the chess world. And now, I would say the last year and a half or something, I just don't feel that level of engagement from the chess community anymore. So, A, I want to ask you, do you feel that too? And B, like, where do people go then for like little snippets of news? Like, when something just happens, it would like be like a little wildfire. Somebody would do something, then you would hear it on Twitter right away. And now I don't feel that's happening. So as a
Like where
journalist,
is
Hmm.
where is Chess's town square now?
yeah, exactly. That's my question, I guess.
Yeah, I don't really visit it myself this often, but from what I'm hearing and from links that are being shared every now and then in our Slack, I have a feeling that maybe Reddit is sort of taking over in that part.
Okay, fair point. Yeah.
Um, yeah, because I am noticing that almost all news on chess that is sort of interesting is actually being discussed there. So maybe that's sort of the new place. Yeah, Twitter has changed in general and also for chess. It's true. Yeah. I mean, Anish should come back to and make more jokes because
Yeah.
he's still funny, but he's just not tweeting so much anymore, I think. So
Yeah.
maybe we need a bit more of Anish and a bit more of general positivity. I don't know. But for me personally, I I'm actually already for a while. I'm trying to be less active on socials,
Hmm.
on Twitter especially. I am still using it for book promotion things.
Right.
I am active on Blue Sky, but also more of a reader than that I'm posting that much.
Yeah.
But I am following a few people there, and in general, the atmosphere is nicer there. So if a lot of people from the chess world, or even more people, would just move to Blue Sky, I would be quite happy.
Hmm.
Yeah,
They
I've been on
they have a
Blue
niche.
Sky a bit, but yeah, the issue feels like not everyone is there, so it doesn't get like all the
Yeah,
news and all the discussion. So it is very
exactly.
split right now. Um, and yeah, I'm
Kostya or
worried that
Peter.
like
Either of you, do you know if Anish is on Blue Sky?
I don't think he is. No,
haven't haven't seen him
no.
there.
Well, and one thing to
No, but it's
contrast,
worth it. I mean, if only you want to see a picture of Peter Schwittler's dog every now and then, it's already worth going there.
Yeah, Svidler's on Blue Sky. Yeah, he's it does feel like a friendlier place, but I feel that it's I think, and even just in the general world as well, it might just like split off where we just have like this kind of Twitter, which is like maybe a more mainstream, maybe right-leaning kind of place, and then Blue Sky, which is like far left-leaning, and then um and then yeah, that's just where people will like hang out. Like I don't know, like it's kind of seems like where it's heading to right now. Because
Mm.
yeah, I've definitely felt like the Twitter drop off. It just feels not dead, but it feels like it's dying. Like I started tweeting less. It's just like I just stopped caring kind of about it.
Hmm.
Like oh,
Right.
unless like I have like a video or something to like share, then I'll tweet about that.
Yeah.
But only if I actually want people to see it. So,
Right.
uh,
Well, and
but
one
yeah.
thing too about Reddit, when you contrast it with Twitter, is um, Reddit is not there for self-promotion. They even penalize you for self-promotion. So it's not going to be able to take the voices of Neiman and Kramnik and Carlson. It's going to be the chess fans discussing some controversy, which is cool. But
Mhm.
back in the day with Twitter, you would have everybody there and you would have the big names, and then you would have everybody able to respond in a kind of interesting, sometimes chaotic way to some whatever event we're talking about, right?
Yeah, true. Yeah. Yeah, but no doubt it also has to do with that there's just too many people leaving not very serious questions, or maybe there are even bots now also among the chess
Mm-hmm.
tweets. I don't know, but it's happening always with big sites. I mean, I also remember from Chess Vibes, when I started it, in the first few years, I had these great discussions in the comments section on my articles, and a lot of people would really discuss the things that were going on, and at a very high level and very interesting. I would read everything, and then the thing is that the more readers you collect, sort of the bigger you grow, the more like silly comments will be left, comments that don't make any sense, or just uh, what's the word, trolling. Some people
Mm-hmm.
just want to
Mm-hmm.
troll, and at some point it gets too much, and then everyone that actually was interested in having a discussion, and they're just don't bother anymore, and they stop leaving comments. And then
Mm-hmm.
maybe, and it's sort of you have I think it's happening with every side that has some kind of critical mass. So maybe that's also part of it, that just there's just too many people now, and the ones that are, yeah, that are not really contributing to the discussion are taking over, and then everyone else is just not bothering anymore.
Mhm.
Something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a bummer. Well, the Chess Dojo Discord is open for
That's right. We got
discussion. But Peter's absolutely right. If it got filled with thousands and thousands of people, you wouldn't be able to have like normal discussions in there, and that is what happens to Discord servers as well. Once they just get too big, it's just
Hmm.
like, well, it's a lot of kids, it's a lot of trolls, and yeah, it's not really
Yeah.
so suitable for serious stuff. Um, Okay, wait, I had a question from earlier.
Hmm.
Maybe we should have asked this earlier too. But Peter, what would you say, like, how do you define the chess revolution exactly? Like, was it the streaming
Mm.
part that rise since, like, let's say, like the pandemic, or was it, do you link it back to more like the internet and computers and stuff?
Yeah, actually, I think already more than one reviewer has pointed out that I'm actually kind of maybe talking about different kind of revolutions in one book,
Mhm.
which actually might be true. Um, yeah, in the end, I mean, the title mostly refers to the incredible peak of popularity and new people coming to the game that we had in, well, the top months were January, February, and March 23.
Mhm.
I'm in the book. I'm talking about these different waves that we have seen since the pandemic, and to demonstrate it, I'm using the numbers from chess.com. The monthly new registrations. This is very simple, like how many people leave their email address and become a member of chess.com, even though many of them are maybe not going to do much on the site, and the majority actually, and the minority will become an active player, or what we call a monthly active user. But still, it says something, of course. The number of people leaving their email address every single day, it says something about chess popularity in general. And yeah, so we had this first peak when the pandemic started and people had to stay at home to play chess. Then the second peak was half a year later with the Queen's Gambit, which was the bigger one. And yeah, and everybody thought, okay, we're never going to see this one again, because we're not going to see another Queen's Gambit period. And yeah, and then a year later, with the Carlsen Neiman scandal, some other developments, like we had this Messi and Ronaldo picture of Louis Vuitton that was big. There was the chess boxing thing actually also then that was quite popular. We had mittens that broke the internet for a while, where everybody wanted to play this silly cat. But the most important thing was the streamers, of course, the breakthrough of Levi Rossmann basically, and also Hikaru and the Bota sisters and all the others. And suddenly, I think January and February alone, each month had 8.9 million subscribers in a single month added to our site, which is just ridiculous. So that is first and foremost is the chess revolution, I would say. But yeah, the way the computers changed how top players approach preparation, for example, is kind of revolutionary as well. The fact that computers actually became this strong, that for so many decades, like AI pioneers tried to create chess programs, and they were playing very silly chess until the 1990s. They would just make blunders and make horrible positional decisions, and then suddenly they take over, and then you have this deep mind with Alpha Zero, and that's also sort of a revolution in what happened to chess, of course. So I don't know. I don't know if we can think of more than those. Yeah, maybe what I'm describing it's a bit far fetched, but as I'm sort of trying to make the book very up to date, as you pointed out, I'm sort of added all the recent updates to the epilogue. So I'm mentioning freestyle, and I'm mentioning the Global Chess League and stuff like that. So yeah, the way that chess is changing to a more faster format, that Magnus has different priorities, and that suddenly everyone is watching it and likes to watch it, and we have all these broadcasts, and it has become a watching sport, so to speak, is also maybe a little bit of a revolution in itself.
Well, let me chime in just to it grew on me, the idea of a revolution. I just want to point out two things from the book that I thought were really interesting.
By the way, one funny detail before you go on. We first went with Renaissance.
Okay. No, I think revolution's good. I mean, so one thing was just the stat that just continues to blow me away, that there are more monthly users on chess.com than there are people in Russia. And I was
Right.
like,
Yeah.
what? I was like, oh, what are we talking about? That's a stunning fact. Also, you have this amazing graph in here of the membership growth, going back all the way to 2016, and it's real steady until we get the first wave and the second wave. But one of the things where it's really kind of revolutionary and weird, and we here at the dojo, I remember it was just kind of, we were picking up on the numbers and we were like, this can't be right. This isn't. Because the third wave, which has no one identifiable source as to why it happened. The other ones are real easy because you're like pandemic, Queen's Gambit, we get it. There's going to be a boost, right? But this next one is hard to pin down exactly why it happened. And also, it has to be appreciated. This one is significantly bigger in growth than the other two before it. So it's like, wow, what a jump.
It wasn't that hard to pin down from my perspective. It seemed like it was definitely the content, like all the shorts, especially like TikTok. So there was like this epidemic of kids all of a sudden playing bullet chess in their schools, and like teachers like just getting fed up with kids playing chess all the time. I heard stories of college kids playing chess at parties, like frat parties, which has never happened before. And while they're playing OTB chess, they're playing chess on their phones also, because they're just like so. And of course, I met so many people in my just personal life outside of chess that suddenly knew who Levi Rosman is, Eric Rosen, Ben Feingold, Bo Ted. They suddenly know all these people, and it's like because they're watching their stuff on
But I
YouTube,
think
etc.
an important part of this is also that there were these different factors, but these factors actually sort of worked together, because of course the content creators was the biggest development in that period, late 22, early 23. But of course they made content about the other stuff, about Carlsen Neiman and
Oh,
about
yeah, unquestionably,
Mittens
I think
and
it
about
started with Carlson
all these
Neiman.
things. Yeah. So
Yeah, like
they all
that's
became this big snowball, and it got bigger and bigger. And then you had the old-fashioned word of mouth in the schools as well to make it
yeah.
even more. Yeah.
No, that scandal from the Singfield Cup, yeah, 2022, that was like I think that was a cataclysmic event that changed so many things. Because yeah, there was a ton of content generated from that, continues to be generated from that.
Yeah.
And of course it like had all these dramatic effects in terms of like cheating accusations, dealing with cheating, and that
But I
obviously we're
think
still dealing with.
also it's you cannot underestimate that chess was being mentioned regularly all over the world between mid-September and let's say mid-December and beyond. But it was, I would say, like it was a bit of a sort of a negative story because cheating is not particularly positive. But
Mm.
in the book world, we always say it's better to have a negative review of your book than no review. And so I also think that it still helped the game of chess that it was constantly everywhere on all kinds of websites from Al Jazeera to CNN to here in Holland. Um, and even though it was about cheating, chess was there, and I think it played a role.
Yeah. We've covered a lot of these same topics and stories on this podcast in the past, right? Like sometimes we talk about evergreen topics, sometimes we talk about news at the moment, So we had an episode about what was the cause of the third wave, right? And
Hmm.
Kostya, you say like it wasn't that hard to pin down, but it was harder to pin down than like the Fisher boom or the Queen's Gambit boom or something like that, right? Like it required a little more
Oh yeah, no, he's definitely like a
reflection. It was
swell of
it was a
everything, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a trickier, more interesting thing to figure out. We also had a talk a couple months before the boom where we asked, is this Carlson Neiman scandal good or bad for chess, right? Whenever there's one of these scandals and chess gets thrust into the spotlight, we're often kind of embarrassed, right? Like, oh, Toilet Gate would be another example, which is maybe the most comparable story to Carlson Neiman, right? Was Kramnik Topalov Toilet Gate that made the front page of the New York Times, but it made the front page of the New York Times with the word toilet. So, a lot of chess players were embarrassed at the moment and didn't know, is this good for chess's popularity or not? And I think when Carlsen Neiman happened, we didn't know. Then 3 months later, you really get the answer.
Hmm.
Though to be fair, a
Yeah.
lot of people don't appreciate the changes. They don't appreciate the growth and like
Mm.
the increase because it did come with a lot of negative attention, obviously. And yeah, people like the good old days, like classical chess, adjournments,
German.
slow time controls.
That's been a while. I mean, I've wondered sometimes, like maybe someone should organize a classical tournament with 2.5 hours for 40 moves and a Germans just one more time to see how it works.
That'd be fun.
But
Okay, I want.
yeah, it has changed. But yeah, I mean, I'm also pointing out in the book, for me personally, I really hope that classical chess will survive as well. Um, I'm also involved in the freestyle events these days. And I think it's quite a funny and exciting new development, but I really hope it's going to be like something extra, and we will just continue to see the big events. I like Wykense and Norway chess. They still are very interesting. But that of course it's for us when we are especially you guys are strong players. I'm a decent club player, and we like this kind of thing. We still like the tradition, and for the World Championship we have this great tradition from 1886. So yeah, I think it would be a big pity if it would push classical chess even more away. I think I hope we can have everything alongside each other.
Yeah, I
Well, one
wanted
of
to
the
ask
quotes.
where do you see it going, Peter, with like the especially all the not just the freestyle, but also like the esports signings, if you've been following that and like the esports World Cup coming up, do you think that's gonna uh
Yeah,
change things?
yeah. Well, I think the so far it seems that everything can still sort of coexist, but I think the chess calendar is fuller than ever, and it's sort of about to explode in a way that
Mhm.
um, if someone now has an idea for a new thing, we already know it cannot be with top players. It cannot be organized in 25 already, and they already have to move it to 26 the earliest because I think there's not a single weekend anymore almost
Right.
where you can invite top grandmasters, and that is there's so much online events added to the calendar, and the whole esports thing is growing, and well, we have the five freestyle events. We have so much going on. And in 26, there's going to be an Olympiad. Uh, there is going to be well candidates again. So I guess 26 will be even more crazy than this year.
Yeah, it's
So
gonna be wild.
where is it going? Yeah, I well, let's put it this way. I don't think we're going to easily see a new big classical tournament. It's almost impossible if there would be interest from some kind of new sponsor. I don't think we're going to see. So what is it? What have we? We have like the big three these days, right? I can say Norway Chess and Sinquefield Cup. As far as sort of private tournaments are concerned, and then of course the candidates. But
Mhm.
anything else are like the big opens. I think we used to have more at least double the amount of classical tournaments in the old days. So
Yeah.
it has already changed,
Maybe
and
once every
yeah,
2 years you've got the FIDE Grand Swiss, which is a pretty
yeah, yeah, it's
important
true. Yeah.
tournament. But
Yeah,
then
but
there's
I'm sort
other
of talking more
tournaments,
like the strong round robins with the top players.
right?
I
But
don't
then
even
there's
know if we need more of those, to be honest.
yeah.
But yeah,
Well, there's some that still exist, but that have dropped in stature a little bit, I think, Peter. Like
yeah, it's
they're
true.
not out competing other events. Like I think of the London Chess Classic, that still happens.
Yeah,
But there was
it
a
came back. Yeah,
time when that was kind
yeah,
of like a final stage of a grand chess tour, and it was like a you would have thought of it as a grand slam on your list of the top three or four
yeah,
big opens, and now the level went down a little bit because the schedule maybe is too packed for Carlsen, Nakamura, Caruana,
yeah,
Aragaisi.
yeah. It's probably also a budget thing. Um, but yeah, it's true. I mean, where is it going? I think we can already see where it's going. When we're just gonna have more events focused on faster chess, and more is happening online. That's also very clear.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't know, maybe there is a danger that we might lose more classical events. Maybe I don't know, but the thing is also what is interesting is also Magnus is always pointing out that he's sort of not so interested anymore. But yeah, he makes an exception for Norway because he's from Norway and he has of course the best relations with the organizers and all. But I can imagine at some point maybe he will also sort of not play that one anymore. And will the tournament continue to exist if he doesn't? You know, it's all these questions. It's hard to say where things are going. It's a bit of a chaotic chess world at the moment, I guess. Yeah.
Well, Peter, my favorite chapter of the book was your description of the war and the background between Lee Chess and chess.com. Kudos, kudos as well for like, you work for them, but I felt it seemed fair to me. I loved the description of the French guy. I've been wondering about this guy forever, man. He's a real interesting character in my head. Like forever,
Yeah.
I thought it was like he was a communist like David, and that was his driving. And it was like, no, he just wanted to do a different programming language.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
that kind of thing was really fascinating. But I guess
Thibault. Yeah.
um, one thing, I don't know if it's really a question, you don't have to sound off on this if the company doesn't want you to say anything, but like one of the things about the last couple of years that's been so incredible was when chess.com ate Play Magnus and became this behemoth, and Lee Chess is kind of sitting there on the side, but doesn't have nearly as many people using it. And I'm just wondering, do you see this kind of monopolistic situation continuing, or what kind of things should the chess fans, be thinking about in this evolving war? Or maybe it's just a war that's over. It might just be a war that's completely over.
Yeah, I don't know if it's really a war. I mean, I think a few years ago it was more of a clash, and I think people were more talking about it as well, about
Yeah.
either your chess.com or Lead Chess and all that. and I'm kind of describing it like that because it has been like that. And but I'm not sure if it's really a war at the moment. I think a lot of the people who are on chess.com probably also have an account on Lichess and vice versa. I think it's a matter of taste also. Even in my own group of friends on my chess club, I mean, I must say, uh, there's for the people who really are into bullet, most of them prefer Lichess, to be honest. I'm not exactly sure why. I think it's just a matter of they like the board maybe a bit better or something, or maybe it's just the fact that most of them are there and then they can play each other every now and then. But many of them are also on Chess.com or both. By the way, things might change even on a higher level because, as I understand, recently Chess.com has improved the well, lag time. I think we now have like more distributed servers in Europe, I believe. So
Yeah.
so maybe even for bullet, everything should be very smooth for Chess.com now as well. I'm not really a player myself, an online player myself, so I don't know the details, but maybe on that level, maybe things are competing now as well. And of course, on the other side of the spectrum for the beginning players, yeah, chess.com is much bigger. And I don't know. I think we also have more to offer actually in terms of, well, especially in terms of content. Of course, we have all the articles and we are still making all the videos and all that. So, but I'm sure Lichess is also a great place for all levels. I think they also have a ton of tools. So yeah, to what extent there's really a war going on, I'm not sure anymore. Yeah.
Right.
I definitely think that your book is going to need a revised edition in a couple of years because I feel like we're still in the revolution as opposed to in like a post-revolutionary period,
Yeah.
right? Like because we don't yet know like are these waves going to like drop back down or not, right? Like there was the Queen's Gambit wave and then things dropped down. Then with the third wave, okay, we're still at now we're at sort of a steady level where registrations are comparable to at the peak of the Queen's Gambit, but we're down from the winter 2022 to 2023. We're down from that peak, right? So there's still all these
Oh yeah, we're
questions like, is
definitely
that going to
down.
maintain or
Of course, we have to remember that we're down from the rate of growth from that
yeah,
time. But of course, the total, if we're talking about totals, we're simply at the moment, of course, we are bigger than ever because we
yeah,
simply have added so many people, and I think more than the people who actually left. So in that
right,
sense, I think chess.com is still bigger right now than in 23,
yeah,
which we call the peak of the right. So
right,
in that sense, we are now slowly growing still. I think chess is growing in general,
hmm
and yeah, there's a lot happening. I think in this year we also have like 2 or 3 chess documentaries coming up, something on Netflix.
right.
Netflix Untold will have something, and there's something else going on. Well, the esport thing is very interesting to see what effect that will have
Yeah,
on the growth of the game. So
yeah.
you're right. Yeah,
I think
there
there's
might
some
be a lot happening also now. Yeah,
Yeah, I think there's some open questions still, right? Like, what is
yeah,
chess's new place in popular culture, right? Like, will it remain popular with kids for the next
right.
several years or forever, right? Like, what will the esports thing be in terms of popular culture? How will AI change like coaching and teaching and learning, right? Because you
Hmm.
talked about how one generation finally had access to great learning tools. Now everyone might have access eventually to something that might be more like private coaching if AI can reach that kind of a level. And will all the people who were brought into chess by these different waves, will they stick it out for years to come, or are they going to drop out after 1 or 2 years?
Yeah,
So I feel
exactly.
like there's still a
Yeah,
lot of unsettled stuff.
and then there's also sort of the ancient question that we can add, which is, are we going to see chess making a move to television?
Hmm.
And we actually, now that we're speaking about it, we are into the third episode of the Chess Masters on the BBC. I don't know if you can, if you have access to that from the US, but um, well, there's been some mixed reactions, but personally, I think they're doing a pretty good job, and it's simply great to see. I mean, it's on prime time. I mean, it's 8 p.m. On BBC Two. That's in itself is already great to have a chess program for 8 weeks on prime time. Prime time. That's something also about. So that is of course something I'm also talking about in the book, like because it still feels like sort of the sign of the actual breakthrough. If we're actually gonna have like regular programs, even only for half an hour on ESPN or Eurosport or stuff like that, where they're actually just going to cover not just the drama and the cheating and all that, but the actual tournaments and the leaderboards and the scores. If that would be sort of still, I think, the ultimate breakthrough for the game.
Peter, let me just push back on
that's
that just for a second, though, because
yeah.
my kids don't know what TV even is. They
Yeah.
don't even know. Do they know what YouTube is? They do. Do we have chess content all the time on YouTube? Absolutely. So to me, we've
Yes,
already
but
made the breakthrough.
well, I think I can counter on that is that a lot of what they're seeing on YouTube actually came from television. They're clips from what has been broadcast before on a television show,
Hmm.
and maybe those clips are seen more often than the actual show live. I mean, for example, I'm following the Daily Show
Uh-huh.
with Jon Stewart and the others, and I'm seeing the clips appearing everywhere, also on Twitter and Blue Sky. You can watch it on YouTube, but of course, it was first broadcast on television, and
Mhm.
so and I also think that media rights and commercial value is still very high, and much higher than the ad revenue that you can grab from YouTube, unless you are on the levels of well, maybe Levy or somebody like Ludwig,
Mhm.
but otherwise, I think it's still hard to make a comparable revenue from advertisement, for example,
Right.
on the internet.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, I definitely think YouTube is kind of the new television. Like I feel like all any live event that I've watched in the last couple of years, it was either on Twitch or YouTube. Like I
Yeah.
just watched a stream of it. I don't think I've watched like a live event on yeah, yeah, even like a live event that I could watch on TV, like
Hmm.
a president's speech or something. I would watch a stream of it on YouTube rather than
Yeah, true.
finding
No,
whatever
maybe
channel it's on.
maybe it's a bit of an old-fashioned view of how the media work these days, and maybe television will become even more or even less important, also in terms of where the money is involved. It is a logical transition that this will be happening in the coming years, also for chess. But yeah, at the moment, right now, I think it's still something to strive for. Let's put it that way. I think at the moment, television is still important enough to want to that you want to be there.
Yeah, I mean, also ask yourselves this, Kostya and Jesse, like maybe you don't need TV, maybe something can be big via other media, right? And other media are becoming more important. But if chess is really big and has really broken through, wouldn't TV want to have chess on it, right? Like there is a level of breakthrough where like the people making TV are still making it and they're picking what to put on it based on what they think is important and popular, right?
Yeah.
So if they're putting up cricket matches or something like that and not chess matches, that still tells you something about how far chess has broken through.
Right, but it's not the
Yeah.
breakthrough itself. That's the only thing I was saying. Like, yeah, it's an
Right. It
indication.
would be
Yeah.
reflective of
It
it,
would be a
at least.
reflection. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I agree. Yeah.
Okay, well, I highly recommend this book for anybody, whether you're just wanting to know from, chess history from the beginning or, this latest revolutions. Very interesting to think about. Very recent history. It's not a history book where we're going all the way back. We're talking very recent developments. Pruess is in there. He's at this dinner that he gets mentioned. I was at that dinner too, fateful dinner. So we even have a little
Okay.
personal connection to this book
I
here
didn't
too.
know that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that'll do it. Thank you, Peter, for coming on. Thanks everyone for
You're
tuning in.
welcome.
Check out
Yeah.
the pod on Patreon if you'd like to support it. Vote on future topics. And yeah, we'll see you next time, folks.
Well, also very importantly, Kostya mentioning Patreon, we had to buy 3 copies of this book to make this
Yeah,
podcast.
come on.
$45, folks. And on Patreon, you can support us for $2. So, especially today, you know, we're not running any ads or anything. Why don't 20 of you go on down to Patreon and send $2 to the dojo so we can keep reading books and bringing on special guests?
All right. I will be happy to sign your Audible and your ebook and your actual versions.
Appreciate it.